Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, so we're going to get started. We'll continue to welcome our colleagues into this space as needed. I'm Mary Treece, Executive Director of Educational Services for Wayne Risa. We'd like to officially welcome you to the Curriculum Leaders Update meeting for January 2025. We have a ton of information for you, and as always, we archive all of the slides for you with links and information so that you can go back and review and share with your teams. Next, please. The update report for Wayne Risa for January is available, and it's linked in the slide deck, so you can find it there. Please share widely. We have a ton of things on the agenda, from legislative updates, state assessment accountability, special ed, multilingual. We have some information on reinvigorating your PLCs, information on building science capacity in your districts, social studies updates, instructional technology, and state and federal programs. We're going to kick it off with, if Mike is with us, with legislative updates. Is Mike in the room?
He is not currently here, but I know he'll be joining us in a little bit, so we will interrupt later.
Thanks, Michelle. We'll go back to him and we'll go right to Cindy with state assessment updates.
Thank you so much. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start out with our state testing reminders and resources. I know there's a lot of information here. I want to keep up to date with what currently needs to be done. Just a reminder that pre-ID opened on January 6th in OEAA. You have to make sure that you transferred over from the old OEAA into the new My Third login. So if you have not done that and you need to get into OEAA, I have directions on the right, the link here, accessing OEAA through my login. So make sure that is the only way now. If you did not do it by that November 7th date, accounts were disabled. So you will have to go back in and start from the beginning to get access to that OEAA account. So that link is there. Also in OEAA, material order window has opened for any paper material tests. That will close on 12/14 for barcodes. And for your PSAT and SAT tests, principals and test coordinators should have received AI codes confirming that you are all set for your testing for your College Board suite assessments. If you did not receive that AI code, make sure you email Michigan Administrator Support at collegeboard.org to get that situated. And then I just have some webinars listed here. The WIDA materials are arriving, coming in the next week or so. Test Day Toolkit will open March 3rd. And your College Board accommodations are open. Those close February 18th. And then on the right-hand side, just some documents and resources for you to use for testing to get yourself prepared. Next slide. The benchmark assessment reimbursement, the funding application, it was extended. The new due date is now January 17th, so you do have a couple more days. If you have not been working on it, the deadline, you have a couple more days for that deadline. That is for your math and ELA benchmark assessments for K-8, if you are using one of the approved vendors. In order to get that reimbursement fund, you have to submit the funding application in Nexus. Your district assessment data has to be received in the Michigan Data Hub. You have to report your mode of instruction in the Data Hub. And when you're applying with the application in Nexus, make sure you hit Apply Later in the budget section. That budget amount will be sent later through the Nexus application. I have some resources for you there. Next slide. This will show you the readiness checklist. So when you're going into the Data Hub, you can walk through all of the items that need to be sent to Data Hub, the data and the mode of instruction. They all need to be blue or green. So if you are seeing any red check marks, that means the data is not flowing correctly and it needs to be fixed. I have a link there for how to check that readiness. So that benchmark assessment readiness checklist, that's the first link. How to make sure you have the mode of instruction set up so that it's sending the data to the Data Hub. That link is the second link. And if you have any issues that you're seeing red, I have the service desk link there for assistance. But everything needs to be green or blue. Thank you. Okay, next slide. The annual education report, it is now public, so it is not in the embargo anymore. It can be posted. Remember, the annual education report and cover letters have to be posted to the school website and the district website. You have to download the cover letters and populate the information that's specific for your school or district and then post them. So the first day to post was January 6th, and then the deadline to post is February 18th. There are some frequently asked questions. There is a slide deck, an entire PowerPoint if you have any additional questions, and then a link to access the annual education report on My School Data. Next slide. This is just some of the information. We reviewed this before. Just reminding you that it has to be posted on the websites and how to access. Next slide. The student voice survey I shared last month. I did add in the survey questions a link to the survey questions since that came up last month. So it's linked at the bottom in the middle. Again, this is a free student voice survey. It's become a statewide consortium. You can see we had 108 participating districts, but again, free student voice participation survey, 10 minutes online, grades 5 through 12. It covers student engagement, belonging, social emotional learning, and it can also include parent and educator surveys if you choose. Those are all optional. You can just do the student voice if you want that. The survey questions are flexible also. They have 4 windows to administer this survey, and the link to register is linked below. I think that's it. Any questions in the chat?
Good afternoon. I just want to shout out a couple of our upcoming workshops that we have coming. One's been mentioned before. Go ahead, Michelle. Or whoever's thanks. So we have the Maker STEM Summit. So this is the last month to register for that. If you've not been a part of that, it's a very hands-on, learn by doing type of an event where there are breakout sessions as well as many opportunities in the Maker area for folks to get their hands on different things that they can implement in their classroom. The other thing I wanted to mention, if you're not aware, the Michigan Learning Channel, Matt Hamilton there has received a CTN grant and has created different media kits. And so they are kits that can be borrowed by anybody in the Tri-County area. So he has different kits for podcast stations, video, things that you can use for place-based learning and whatnot. So he is going to be there as well. So if you're not familiar with those and want to get your hands on, just seeing the kinds of tools, whether it be for potentially purchasing for your district or what your teachers can borrow at no cost, he will be there as well. So we would invite you to that. And then we're once again hosting CT in the D. It'll be hosted at the Detroit Institute of Arts. Project Tomorrow, which has contracted with MDE, will be helping to facilitate the morning around how computational thinking is a way to bring computer science into K-12 without adding one more thing on their plate. So the morning will be very foundational, and then the afternoon will be in conjunction with the DIA and connecting computational thinking to, in this case, art, but also history and other content areas. So we would invite you to come to that as well. And thanks to the DIA, there will be no cost because they will be covering lunch. So thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Good afternoon. I'm Kaylin Willaton, and I appear to have frozen. Okay, no, I'm good now. Could you advance the slide, please? Hopefully I will not freeze again. So our section today, when we met in December, I brought up that we were working with the Newcomer Collaborative and MDE. This document is now available and linked and available on the slide. I can drop some links in the chat after I'm done speaking as well. In addition to this, which has a lot of resources, could we advance? The US DOE has also come out with a Dear Colleague letter on the same topic. So a lot of this immigration rights has to do with keeping our families safe and secure, and a lot of it is aligned with FERPA and has to do with privacy laws and having policies around that, what information can go out and what information cannot, right? And making sure that everybody is trained and knows what to do, and that you have a protocol or a policy in place. Because as we know, this could just be someone walking into the front office and saying, hey, I need information about this family, right? It's not going to be jackboots or anything like that. It's going to be, very polite adults coming in, most likely. Next slide, please. So what I can't link yet, but which you will be getting either at the end of this week or the beginning of next week, is that Wayne Risa and in conjunction with a lot of representatives from different districts that we have. And I'm sorry, did we lose that? Okay, sorry. Has taken a leadership role in preparing different documents that will support you in these efforts and, run very nicely with things that we already created at the ISD and state level. So we have a bunch of different pieces that can be customized by districts, including a flow chart of, this happens, who do you go talk to? We will have a model. We will also have one that is customizable by you. So if you want to actually put people's names in, because that is going to be the designee of the district to handle this kind of information processing or these kind of requests, all sorts of things like that. We also have a nice cover letter that, you could send out, both adaptable for your staff and other interested parties and also your families, right? Again, the focus is on student and family privacy. And our focus here is on multilingual and immigrant students and their families. Obviously, we are the multilingual team, so that goes hand in hand. There are a lot of resources that explain all of this, including the court case Plyler v. Doe, in which the Supreme Court established that all children have the right to a public education, whether they're documented or not. And then that status is also part of FERPA. It's not revealable to anybody, right? So those are just a couple of examples, but we are also providing some scenarios of things that might happen and different ways to deal with it. And of course, our biggest purpose in the end is to provide those equitable, inclusive, and supportive school environments for our students and their families. We had a meeting today with our network, and someone brought up the thing, well, are we inspiring fear if we talk about this? My answer to that would be the fear is already there. Okay. No one knows what's going to happen starting next week, but based on the rhetoric in the campaign and things that happened in the first term presidency of Donald Trump, these things, we better be prepared, and we better let our families know that we are going to support them. Right. If you have any questions, you can reach out to the multilingual team, but all of this information was also provided last week at the superintendent's updates. And again, we are just going to be sending this out via all of our networks. So you will be receiving it. Your superintendents will be receiving it. We have one more meeting with some other district people tomorrow morning. And hopefully, again, 24 to 72 hours after that, things will be going out. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kate Pearson. I'm the Essential Elements Consultant at Wayne Risa with the Special Education Department. And an update that I wanted to talk about is that we've had some curriculum and instructional tools and resources in the special ed lane kind of come together, merge together, and they're being rebranded and renamed under Everway. So curriculum options and tools like Unique Learning System, News to You, Symbol Sticks, L3 Skills, Inspire, those are all going to be kind of labeled under Everway. And also we have those inclusive tools that help break down barriers for our students within the classroom. Like you might be familiar with Google's Read and Write, Equato, Orbit Notes, Speech Stream. We have planning, IEP and data planning platforms such as Polaris and UPAR. These are all going to be rebranded and put under the new name of Everway. way. So I'll put the website and like their new branding inside the chat for you to explore. So these curriculum and tools aren't going away. They're just being kind of merged together and confined under one name. So it's exciting that you can find them now kind of all in one place, which is also very helpful. So that was my little update. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions regarding special education and curriculum.
So I believe our John Ferris, our social studies consultant, is not able to join us today, but I'm happy to share. Next slide, Anna, please. Thank you. I think that we've been sharing this for some time and we continue to because we'd really like you to hold the date and be available to join us for this great day of 2 days of learning. Actually, we're really going to focus in on comprehensive and diverse history. We're going to have a fantastic keynote speaker. We're going to have a solid day of day one learning together, and then day two is going to be place-based, and we're going to kind of zero on some of those untold histories locally, right here in Wayne County. And we also are going to focus in on how do you go about teaching those? And from a leader perspective, right, how do you address any questions that might come from parents as far as the why that we teach comprehensive and inclusive history? So we have a call for proposal ready to go out. If you know of anybody that you would love to see as a breakout session speaker, we would really like to send it to that person. Or if you're one of those people, we'd be happy to send that to you as well. But right now, we'd really like you to save the date. We'll get registration to you as soon as possible. Next. These, Jen put a lot of information on here intentionally because he knew he wouldn't be able to be here. But there's information here around the Arab American National Museum for Wayne County. The Social Studies Leaders Meeting is going to be held there. Should be a pretty exciting meeting for social studies educators. So please save that date as well. And then here's a partnership with our multilingual consultants, supporting multilinguals in the multilingual learners in the social studies classroom, helping to kind of build their vocabulary and context so that they can engage in deep learning around social studies. So we invite you to share this with your social studies teachers and your multilingual staff as well. Next.
Everyone. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say this one.
Hey everyone, I'm Nathan Spencer. I'm a science education consultant here at RISA, and I have a peer who is on the road right now, so won't be able to talk, Nakia Irby, who's an educational improvement consultant, and we have developed a 2-year workshop series that's about how we support leaders and facilitators with the tools and practices to enhance collaboration and get results in your PLCs. On the slide and also in the notes when you get this PowerPoint, there's a link to a flyer if you're interested. If you could click, please, Anna. So why another PLC workshop? Well, we've been both as PLC members throughout our teaching history and observing PLCs throughout Wayne County. We've noticed a lot of things about PLCs, and some of the things we've noticed is that sometimes educators are frustrated. They don't know what to do, or we're doing the same things over and over again. And we want to help support teachers in making PLCs what they're promised to be, an opportunity to grow and reflect in our instructional practices to support students. So that's what this program is. It's going to support those who lead the PLCs, so the facilitators, and the language of PLC facilitation. So how do we actually work with our peers? What's that language like? What are the tools and processes and resources that we can use to actually engage in the work of looking at teacher work, of looking at student work, of engaging in issues we find in classrooms, and how do we move that work forward into our classroom to produce great results for our kids? What this program that we've developed is not. It's not an introduction to a PLC, right? It's not the big, here's what a PLC is, and here's the 4 big questions we asked when we're in a PLC. This is really about how facilitators and administrators engage folks in these processes. Okay, it's not a one and done workshop. It's not a checklist, and it's not a silver bullet. But what it is it's the right training to help folks lead their peers. Could you click, Anna, please? Yeah. So this is actually a 2-year program. And this program, can you go back one slide? I'm sorry. There we go. Yeah, it's a 2-year program. And in this program, it has in the summers, in June this year, we start a 3-day summer workshop. And then in the middle of that year, we have a 2-day mid-year workshop. There's facilitator networking opportunities, administrator networking opportunities, and the opportunity for a network improvement community, which is where folks from across the county who are engaged in this program, who are engaged in PLC work, come together and network. The document you see to the right that is linked in the slide and in the notes, and this is a description of what these workshops will entail as you go through them. Should you click again, Anna? As I mentioned, it's a 2-year program. So this slide also helps us think about in terms of time and what happens in each of these workshops. The first year is really designed, the first workshop series set this summer is designed to help support facilitators and administrators to understand the language of facilitating PLCs, along with the tools and practices and protocols that we can use to have productive conversations through this work. We then, in the middle of the first year, will have a classroom learning lab workshop, and the classroom learning lab is a really productive opportunity for us to visit each other's classrooms. So if I'm a social studies or a science team and we're talking about a specific practice that we want to see how others are doing it, it's a safe, productive way that we can watch each other, and it's facilitated. And again, this repeats throughout. In the second year, we'll focus in the summer workshop on what's called the collaborative inquiry process. And this is a process where in the PLC, you're looking at a problem of practice really deeply. And then throughout the year, you're working at how do we implement different solutions and practices in order to increase, of course, student achievement. And so we'll dive into what that process looks like, and then folks will take that into their PLCs. And then also in the second year, our mid-year workshop will be how can we use instructional rounds as a PLC process to observe our peers in our classrooms, to look at problems of practice, make connections, and grow. Click the slide, please. Who can participate and who needs to participate. So this isn't an individual training. This is actually for teams of folks. So we're looking at all those in your building or district who serve as PLC leaders. So they could be teacher leaders or department heads. Whoever is designated the leader of the PLC, they need to be there. We also invite coaches and COSAs to come and participate in this, as they sometimes lead PLCs, and they can also support those who do lead PLCs. It is also required that building level administrators and hopefully district level administrators will join the training. We need building level administrators there, and we'll hope for the district level administrators. If you could click, please. Some other great things that come out of this workshop series is that those teachers, those educators in the program can earn micro-credentials and micro-credentials are, credentials that are supported by Wayne Risa in 3 different categories. So they can do work to earn a micro-credential in engaging peers with protocols and the collaborative inquiry process. And this other one we're calling purposeful planning and collaboration. And so this is something that can go on their record that they can use in their career. And then also through this process, we'll have a vetting process in which a district or a building can earn what we're calling the PLC certification. And it would come through this vetting process, come with a banner, right? That can go in your building or in your district. Anna? Thank you. So alongside having these really impactful structures and practices, facilitators are going to have the language to lead peers. Being a PLC facilitator is tougher, I think, than most people imagine. And because not only do you need to be a really productive participant, you also have to think about what's happening? Is this safe? Does everybody have a voice? What's the next best thing to do? And how can I share that with my team? It's complex work and it needs the right training. Folks who are part of this will be part of a network of others who are doing this job. And let's be honest, it's more than what a lot of folks signed up for, right? Leading their peers in something. So it's helpful to have others who you can commiserate with and learn from. We have lots of opportunities to grow throughout this program. It's supported by Wayne Risa fully. I mentioned the networking opportunities that are hosted by Risa, and then the micro-credential piece. Another slide. Okay, what's the investment in this? So this is, I got to tell you, what a great deal for 2 years of professional learning. You can check a lot off the old box by joining this. So it's $700 per teacher for a 2-year program, per teacher, administrator, per participant in the 2-year program. So there'll be a workshop registration that includes 5 days of professional learning each year, the 3 summer dates I mentioned and the 2 mid-year. All the workshop materials, which are books and templates and a drive full of materials that folks take with them, lunches, access to networking groups, and then of course, participation. There is a time investment, right? So you have to participate fully in the workshop series as we've described it. You will want to have a back to school introduction for your staff after folks have been trained for this, so they have an understanding of where your PLC might shift. And then you'll need to monitor this throughout the year as a leader, right? So both the facilitator and building or district admin working together to monitor how we're doing and its success. It's going to take some energy because we're going to have to really utilize effective implementation practices and reflective practices. And I didn't, I forgot to put it on here, but we do have the dates for the first 3-day workshop. That's this June 16th, 17th, and 18th. And so we'll get more like out to you about that. One more slide. Okay, so how do we apply for this? So this is not going to be as readily available through Learning Stream to sign up as other workshops are. We are predicting, Nikki and I and others, that there's going to be a lot of interest in this workshop series, and we only have so much capacity. So right now, if you apply, there's an application process which just asked a few simple questions that helps us understand who's applying, and then we will get as many folks in as we can. We have a top limit of 60 people for this first cohort. If we notice there are many, many more people interested in this, we'll work on opening a second cohort in the same year. So it might be the next week in June where this workshop starts, but it is an investment. It's an investment in time and energy, resources, et cetera, but it's an investment in your teachers. It's an investment in your students. And I really recommend that you ask more questions if you're interested. As a matter of fact, do you have any questions now? Oh, is there questions in the chat? I see some things that came in.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat now.
Okay. Oh, we'll have to pay for half year during and half year in the second. You know what? That's a great question, and I have not considered that. So I'm writing that question down, and I would love to do that, but I have to make sure that that's possible, and I'm sure it is. But let me get back to you on that, and let me see who said that. I'll write your name down, and I'll get back to everybody. There's no more questions. We're going to have we have the flyer out that was on the first slide, and I hope there's a lot of interest. I know there'll be a lot of interest. So if you are interested, as soon as you can, fill out that application. Is there a heavy amount of paperwork involved? Is PD during the school day? Heather, there's not any pre-work involved. It involves being fully present while we're there and then implementing the things, the different practices and tools and strategies throughout the school year in your PLC. It does have some requirements. You have to have a structure in place in your PLC, meaning there's already time available in your school day or however you structure that in your district for teachers to collaborate together. You also, oh, and it says find out more. Michelle just posted the link to the flyer. You also need to ensure you have somebody who is designated as the PLC facilitator, someone who is willing to learn and grow in this role. Okay, so again, this is not, it's not the hoorah, we're jumping. This is what a PLC is. Here's the 4 big questions. This is we've been working at PLCs. We're kind of struggling to make this really beneficial for our teachers. What do we do next? That's what this is. And the PD during the school day, the second part of the question, we're going to work for the mid-year PLC dates. We're going to try to make one date on voting day and the next day after that. So there might be a day in which it will require subs, but we're working on those dates right now. We want to keep teachers in classes. That's our goal, of course, but it's sometimes difficult. Thank you for the question. If you have any further questions, you can contact myself or Nakia Irby. Our emails are listed in the slides, and I look forward to hearing from you.
I believe we're going to wait just a little bit on Mike's portions. We'll go right into the next slide. Thank you.
So first of all, wow, Nathan and Nakia, your PLC certification and micro credentialing program, that is so responsive to our needs in Wayne County. So thank you for all of your hard work on that. I hope people join. In another lane, I'd like to talk about state and federal program leaders update meetings. So I'm Carol Ann Paul. I'm state and federal manager and for special populations, but I also lean into the lane of state and federal programs. And our next meeting is going to be on January 21st. And we're going to be running it virtual from 9 to 12. And if we go to the next slide, I want to tell you that I think this meeting is going to be very purposeful and it's very well planned for you. Of course, we're going to have our MDE regional updates from Yvonne Mayfield. They're coming in, our Team 5 partners, to give us all updates around Nexus, the consolidated application, and Title I. And then we also have Scott Addison coming from the Office of Financial Management to talk again about some new state grants. And also they've done some big work with the repository. So we want to lift that for you. We have Stephanie Holmes Webster and Suzanne Grambush coming from the Early Literacy MTSS Section 31A and At Risk. They're going to be talking about the MTSS handbook, but mostly they're leaning into some common findings as they're going through buildings, maybe some common findings that they're seeing out there within the districts, and they want to discuss some of the ways in which you can remedy some of those common findings as they're doing their on-site reviews. We also have a special populations update from Sabrina Rudy and Laverne Brown. And we're going to be talking about, of course, our MDE federal grants as well, and specifically leaning into Title II. And we have our partners from MAS FPS coming to do an update for us. So this is a meeting I don't think that you will want to miss. And again, it's an update meeting in an online virtual space. Let's go ahead and go to that next slide. So speaking of on-site review, I have Cheryl Irving coming in, and it's never too late to register. Hey, if you didn't come to the first one, which was on 11/6, no worries. This time we're going to be leaning into a new section of that Title I on-site review, and Cheryl Irving is going to be hosting this workshop. It's not in a virtual space. This one is in person. So we'll be here at Wayne Risa. Not too late to register. Feel free to use the QR code or the tiny URL. Cheryl's great. She's a great facilitator. She gives you the nuts and bolts, everyone. And we had a good turnout last time and people really got a lot out of it. So I invite anyone who'd like to come to try to prepare for success for that on-site Title I review. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for allowing me to be here today. This is such a great opportunity for us to collaborate when we're there in some of those update meetings, and we're having some time together in our workshops.
So I'm back, folks, and I have one more amazing opportunity to share with you. We are this year starting the Master Science Teacher Fellowship Cohort 2. It starts this summer. I'm really excited for this opportunity. Last year we finished with our first cohort. It's a 3-year opportunity for educators, science educators, to grow and learn and practice in a community of others like them. And so, I've been asked a lot, what do you mean by master science teacher? What does that mean? So I have a definition here for this. So it's an educator who strives to engage students in ambitious practices to meet high expectations and engender an awareness of and a thirst for knowledge and understanding of the world around them. They're consistently reflecting on their practice. They're willing to recognize, critically reflect, and take action on the reality of all of their students' classroom learning experiences. A master science teacher is also a leader amongst peers who shares their experiences for the benefit of our science education community, which of course benefits all kids. And so if you'd click the slide, please. We're investing a lot in this, and it requires a lot of investment from the teachers who want to participate in this. And so this is a 3-year program, which includes workshops every summer, book studies, monthly meetings, which the fellows share their experiences in the classroom and do reflection. They work in becoming a reflective practitioner, specifically around what we would consider high leverage and ambitious science teaching practices. They'll work with me as an advisor, mentor, and instructional coach throughout the 3 years. And each year they'll engage in in 2 coaching cycles that are specific towards instructional practices that leverage students' ideas towards the next generation Michigan science standards. There'll be classroom learning labs and studio days, and these again are job-embedded professional learning opportunities in which we go to teachers' classrooms, and they work a bit differently. I won't go into detail, but we learn from each other in these ways in this job-embedded professional learning. We learn and grow and reflect together. Field learning experiences where we go out into the world and we engage like as citizen scientists. It helps us grow our own science knowledge and consider ways that we can bring these opportunities to our children that we serve and support. Teachers will be expected to engage in surveys and interviews throughout this. Every summer, they'll have to turn in what's called a critical reflection, which is a deep reflection piece on how they've grown and what they've learned over the course of the year, how it's applied in their practice. And for the last year of the fellowship, they'll engage in an action research project where they will look at a problem of practice that has to do with students in learning science, and they'll engage in that for the full year, write that up. It's fantastic. I had some great entries from my last group. Could you click the slide, please? So over the course of the 3 years, educators collaborate and reflect together. They can earn micro-credentials. That there's 4 specific micro-credentials that they'll be working towards. And they have to go through those, and we'll look at those just briefly in a second. And at the end, they can get the Master Science Teacher certification, which, they've got the 4 micro-credentials. They've turned in their action research project. They've earned this title that they can take with them everywhere. And hopefully, of course, they stay at your place and continue to educate kiddos moving forward. Another slide. I'm not going to read all of these. They're on the slideshow for you, but the four micro-credentials we're listing is investing in instructional practices that make a difference in science learning for kids. And so no matter how much you know about the performance expectations and the next generation science standards, it's actually what we do to lift students and scaffold students and support students as they're engaging they're engaging in science practices through the lens of cross-cutting concepts as they explore disciplinary core ideas to explain science phenomena and solve real-world problems. That's what the Michigan Science Standards are all about, folks. They'll be reflecting a lot. I know all of us, we're always talking to our peers and educators about how important reflection is. This program is its foundational piece is being a reflective educator. We'll also talk a lot about assessment. We're not going to dive into like M-STEP and state style assessments, but we're looking at how we formatively assess. How do we take action on important assessment opportunities on a daily and weekly basis and throughout the year, and also working towards being a leader. Being a leader in our PLC, being a leader in our building, being a leader in the science education community, and so that's how this program is made up. Click the slide. You can take the chance to read some. These are just a few of the many quotes I have from the previous cohort. It was rewarding for all of those educators. Not only will they never forget it, but these educators, they're a network. They will continue the practices that we worked on over those 3 years. They are part of their practice. This is what they do. Another slide. Why should teachers participate? Why should you ask your teachers if they want to participate? Why should you maybe promote a teacher, not promote? Why should you, say this teacher should be here? Well, teachers get to work with a community of like-minded educators from across the county. There's group and individualized support. You get district and countywide recognition, and I put in the lowest because it's not the most important, but there is stipend work for this, right? So the teacher will receive stipends for the work they complete, up to $1,000 per year. Slide, please. Oh, and by the way, the money, the reason we're able to provide stipends is because this is supported and funded by the MySTEM network. So I want to make sure that was lifted. You can click on this later, but this is a list of commitments and eligibility. It's pretty vast. We're asking a lot from teachers, we're giving a lot to teachers, and we're supporting them in different ways. So in order to participate in this program, they have to make commitments to the program. And so that shows the commitments and some requirements for participation. Slide, please. There are also, we're asking for support from districts. So again, I already had a first cohort, and here's some things I know, right? We'll need the support of the district so that teachers are able to attend all of our workshops, our meetings, and activities. We don't pull teachers out of school for professional learning in this, but we will, for example, for classroom learning labs and for the studio days, the group of fellows will come into the school, into the teacher's classroom. So we will need support with that from building administration. We'll want support for the teachers that you have in the program so that they're able to share their knowledge and practice and their work with their peers, however you might support them in those ways. We want your support in those teachers' ability to collaborate with me. So if I'm doing coaching cycles, I'll need to be in your building to engage in those coaching cycles. And finally, and very importantly, and this is we need districts to support teachers with a professional learning stipend. So really, their professional learning for 3 years in totality really could be covered fully by this program. And we're asking for $600 per year per teacher. So if you have a teacher that's in your district or in your building, and they meet the requirements and they're willing to commit to this program, this will be their professional learning over a 3-year period. And we can talk further, of course, about what does it look like? Is it meeting these needs? We can talk about it, and it is meeting so many needs. Slide, please. There's an application process. The first cohort, we had many people who wanted to participate. We only have capacity for so many folks. And so there's an application form. They'll have to complete a personal statement. And then there's a rubric that's provided. And I have a whole process for vetting applicants. They'll also need 2 letters of recommendation, one from a building administrator, principal, curriculum director, and one from a science teaching peer or an instructional coach. And then there's going to be a commitment form. Like I said, there are commitments to the program. If we're going to invest our time and energy and grant funded money into educators, they'll need to invest their time and energy with this program. Slide, please, Anna. There is an informational webinar. I don't expect that you go to teachers and say, hey, there's this program I heard about, and here's 6 slides I got from a curriculum update leaders meeting. I'm going to have on January 27th at 3:30 p.m. via Zoom an informational webinar. This webinar is for teachers and coaches and administrators who are interested in learning more about the program and the commitments and requirements. There'll also be a Q&A session right at the end of the webinar for any questions that you have. There's an interest survey for the webinar. So we'll actually put this in the chat for you. So this interest survey, it's real simple. Just put your email in and answer a single question. I am interested and I'll be there, or I am interested, but I can't make it at time and date. And so we'll figure out how we connect after that. Slide, please. No, and that's my last slide. And are there any questions right now before?
Hey everybody, sorry I'm on the road today, so I'm on my phone. I'm standing in front of a window, so if it looks weird, that's why. I know Michelle's going to help me out since I'm on my phone and actually share a document with you guys that I have shared with all the superintendents as well. What the document is essentially is all of the bills that we were watching during lame duck in the House and in the Senate, along with whether or not they were passed or did not. You'll notice that a large number of them did not pass, and mostly that's because of the complete and utter dysfunction within the House of Representatives that I'm sure you all have already heard, read about, or seen during the final days of lame duck, where the House just kind of threw their hands up in the air and adjourned because of a number of different reasons, but primarily because of one legislator who wasn't getting what she wanted, so decided she wasn't going to come and vote. And Republicans also had left a week prior and essentially said they weren't coming. So the legislature essentially said, we are going to adjourn until until December 31st, and where they essentially ended the session here and did sine die. Part of the problem with what they did, as I'm sure you've also seen in the news, is there's potentially some technical issues with the hundred and so bills that the Senate ended up staying in session and passed, that had already passed out of the House, and the Senate ended up passing. What happened with which we believe is mostly a technicality, and I don't know how many bills will get caught up in this technicality, but essentially when the House sends a bill over and then the Senate passes it, there's some legislative formalities, I guess, if you want to call it, where what they call it is they assign the full name and title to the bill, and that is then sent back over to the original chamber for them to concur. That is usually done in a voice vote, and then the bill is enrolled and then presented to the governor. What happened here was that the House Democrats essentially, we believe, made a mistake, and when they said that they were going to adjourn until December 31st at 1:30 p.m. And when these bills were enrolled, it said that the House concurred with the changes made in the Senate on December 23rd. The problem there being that while this is usually done over voice vote, you can't concur on something if you're not in session. So what we're currently seeing is a legal tug of war between now the new leadership in the House and the Senate and the governor, and the old leadership in the House as well. We'll have to see who wins. Everything that I'm being told, at least as it relates to House Bill 6058, which is the PA 152, the healthcare changes, is that bill is not going to be sent, will never be sent to the governor. We'll have to see if that holds true, but there's a large number of bills that have already been presented to the governor that I believe he only has another 5 or 6 days to sign, or else it'll essentially be a pocket veto, all because of this technicality. So we'll have to see where that all lands, but it's certainly kind of it's giving us a lot to talk about, seeing as that there's not much to talk about in terms of the new legislative session 2 weeks into the year. But what I think primarily for your guys' interest, what I would point out is there was a House Bill 5735 in the previous session that would make changes to the merit curriculum, which was kind of purported as creating more flexibility, but changing the merit curriculum standards that we weren't supportive of. But that bill was not passed. And I think most of the other bills, I didn't see many, too many outside of that that were related to curriculum that did pass, or really were ones that they were, you know, I think mandatory kindergarten, they did not move. They were considering that in the House, and obviously that didn't get moved. So that's kind of where we ended the session last year in a whole lot of chaos. But we'll have to see where things go as far as the PA 152 and some of the healthcare issues. But I think at least for now, primarily we went through lame duck mostly unscathed. So that's good. I think we were hoping for a supplemental to help a number of our districts that obviously did not get moved forward either. Looking forward into what we're going to see right now, I can share with you. So obviously, I think you saw the governor had a speech today, focused, I think, on the auto industry and the economy in Michigan. So what it sounds like they're going to do a little different this year is the State of the State address is what I'm hearing is not going to be until until February 26th, which is about a month after it usually is. It's usually towards the end of January. She will be releasing her budget. I think the date I've heard is February 5th. So we'll have a better idea of what are the new programs the governor plans on pushing forward in her executive budget. There's always a number of different programs, new programs that come into her executive budget. Well, a little bit, I guess it's not so different this year as opposed to previous years, but we were surprised to see that there is, there's the Constitutional Revenue Estimating Conference just last Friday. What came out of that was a little bit of a surprise that there's about $1 billion in one-time money and about $1 billion in new ongoing money that the legislature and the governor will have to play with for this upcoming budget year. So I think that's going to be one of those. So we had one of those things where, obviously, I think we're going to see the governor want to put more money in tutoring. The governor's going to want to put more money in GSRP. It'll be interesting to see if they fund any of the pieces related to dyslexia that we spoke about previously. But there is at least money to work with, which is a good sign, because everything that we'd been hearing over the last couple of months prior to that was there's no money left. I do find it interesting that they found $1 billion in a surplus just sitting there. I'm not really sure how that works out, but at least the money is at least there. And we'll have to see how that goes. I know we'll have, from a Wayne Risa perspective, have a number of different ideas on how they can move that money moving forward. Obviously, our primary piece is putting it through the foundation allowance and getting up to the SFRC number. From a policy perspective, I don't have much to share with you because they have not named a education chair in the House yet. So the only thing that's really changed that we know of in the House is that the Education Committee is now going to be the Education and Workforce Committee, but again has no chair. They don't have any meetings scheduled yet, so we'll have to see what they do. I'm told that not to expect committee chairs for until the end of the month, which could mean no hearings until sometime in February. On the Senate side, kind of likewise, in the sense of we already know who our chairs are and our committee members are, but there has not been any hearings scheduled. So policy wise, everything's pretty quiet. Obviously, we're focused on budget. We also are focused on the earned sick time piece that is going through the legislature right now. And we're focusing on that. But outside of that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
I am not seeing anything in the chat, but if anyone would like to unmute and ask questions, please feel free.
Mike, my name's Stacy from Taylor Schools. Are there any implications for this sick time leave for schools right now? I know my husband had a big meeting today about carryover and accrual and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, if nothing is done and the referendum that was passed years ago that the Supreme Court said has to go into effect, I think sometime in February, essentially what would mean it would be that employees could in perpetuity carry over their sick time. It also would restrict any organizations from paying out sick time. It also changes some of the way that how sick time is calculated. There are two bills that they're currently working on right now. One is in the House, one is in the Senate. We are focused on and as of now more supportive of the bill that's in the House. That would allow a carryover of up to 72 hours each year. But you wouldn't be able to carry 72 on top of 72 on top of 72, if that makes sense. It would allow for an organization to cash out sick time to people as well. It seems from my read of it, it does seem like a more of a modified version. But yeah, I mean, if they change nothing, and if nothing is passed, it's going to have a big impact on schools as it relates to what employees are provided for and means of sick time. What I can do is I got to wait until I get off this call, but I'll send Michelle. I have a side by side that shows what the House bill, what the Senate bill, and what the current referendums would do. So you guys can take a look at that if you're interested.
Will that null and void any collective bargaining then? If you're in a current contract?
That's my understanding, is that, I mean, we would have to follow state law.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for that, Brady.
And that takes us to the conclusion of our agenda. We are here to serve you. Let us know if there's any way we can continue to support you. You have the slide deck and the site with all of the links, all the information. Let us know if we can provide any further depth of detail around any of these topics. We'll see you in February. In the meantime, on behalf of the Wayne Risa team, have a great day and a great rest of your week.